Hello, everyone, and welcome to everyone for our first district spotlight of the 21-22 school year. And this is my first spotlight as your new superintendent. My name is Dr. Delgado, and I couldn't be more excited to start our spotlight off with the wonderful students and wonderful teacher, Roisin Hunter from Wood Creek. We're here this morning to learn more about the Wood Creek Garden as our first spotlight for the year. So let's start with Mrs. Hunter, though, our wonderful teacher there at Wood Creek. Can you just give everyone a little bit of a background on why you went into teaching in the first place,
Sure.
what your current role is, and what you love about teaching?
Okay. Well, I am, this is my 25th year in teaching, and all of those years have been here at Wood Creek. I did my student teaching here. And I love kids, and I've always loved kids. And kids have always been attracted to me. And so I love teaching. I love being able to introduce my kids to new things and see that light bulb go off in their heads. And I absolutely I taught third and fourth grade in a multi-age class setting with another teacher, several other teachers. And then I moved to fifth, and I have to say, I absolutely love what I do. Love it so much.
That's fantastic. Well, we're just honored to have you and to be in Farmington for so long, changing the lives of so many kids over all of these years. And through the power of technology, this is wonderful. We're able to do the spotlight from 3 different locations. You can see we have our students in a room to share with you. Ms. Hunter is in her classroom, and then I'm in my office. So we're so pleased that we're able to bring this spotlight to you. So let's get right to the question. So Ms. Hunter, what drove you to start the Wood Creek Garden, and what was your inspiration?
Well, my inspiration was 2 things. I wanted to, Wood Creek is an IB school, so we're very inquiry driven. And I wanted to bring something to our school that would create moments and opportunities for kids to do some inquiry, some student driven work. And I also love gardening. And that was an inspiration that my father, he inspired me to garden. We used to go out into the garden all the time, and he was not a very talkative man. I was telling my students this, but when we were in the garden, I had great conversations with him, and that's a great memory for me. And he taught me a lot. He taught me about nurturing, about responsibility. He taught me about how to turn the tomato and how to make it work. And so I thought, you know what, I want to do a garden at Wood Creek. And then one day I ran into Mr. Kevin Lashbrook, teacher at Harrison and then Farmington High, who has since passed, and accidentally ran into him at my daughter's volleyball game. And he said, "Oh, I teach at Harrison." I said, "Oh, I teach at Wood Creek." And we started talking, and I said, "I really want to build a garden at my school." And he said, "Well, I'm an environmental science teacher. I've got greenhouses. I've got everything." So he was amazing. And he came over and talked to me and really inspired me and took a look at the back at Wood Creek. And he helped me. He helped me figure out what I needed. And he was my first inspiration. And then Mr. Jim Pierce came out, and I decided, do I ask permission or do I ask forgiveness? So I decided to ask permission first. So Mr. Pierce came out. He was amazing. He was so encouraging and inspiring. And he brought out his journeyman carpenter, Steve Umscheid, and we built. And Mr. Pierce was so supportive of that.
That is wonderful. And those ideas that come through inspiration, through our own memories as children to bring to the next generation of children. So speaking of children, we're so excited to have our 5th grade students here. Before I ask the next question, would you one at a time please introduce yourself to everyone?
Sure. I'm Noel, and I'm in 5th grade.
I'm Landon, and I'm also in 5th grade.
And I'm Armani, and I'm in 5th grade too.
Well, welcome, Noel, Landon, and Armani. So here's a question for you. What benefits does the garden offer to students? And Mrs. Hunter can chime in too, but let's start with you.
Well, we help with some of the children from the autism classrooms, and it helps them build their social skills.
That's a wonderful benefit. Landon, how about you?
One project we'll be doing in the spring is researching new ways to water, and we are also going to research other ways in some urban gardens used to water.
That's fantastic. And as Ms. Hunter said, Mr. Lashbrook was an environmental science teacher. And so these are lessons you can learn in fifth grade and bring all the way through middle school up to high school if you're
Absolutely.
interested in environmental science and new ways to be creative with urban gardens and the like. And how about you, Armani?
Well, we read an article about Indigenous Peoples Day, and we're going to make in honor of Indigenous people. We are going to make like a little bed just for them, and we also learned about the three sisters.
That's
The
fantastic.
three sisters are squash, bean, and corn, and they help other plants grow better.
Go ahead, Ms. Hunter. You had something.
I was
you
going to say,
add?
and what Native American did? Do you remember, Armani, that planted the corn, bean, and squash? And anyone can help her, whoever remembers. The Eastern Woodlands. And so they learned that corn, bean, and squash grow well together, and we're going to be researching why that is. And then they called it, say it again, Armani, what they called those three together.
The three sisters.
The three sisters. So we're going to dedicate one of our beds to Indigenous planting.
That's beautiful, and certainly represents the wonderful legacy of Native Americans in our own area. How about you, Noelle?
We are gonna make a sensory garden, and it's just gonna be for senses, and it's gonna be safe and exciting and comfortable plants for you to touch, smell, and possibly even eat. And it's just really good. It can be used for autism kids and just
Anyone, really.
Mhm.
And when you think of this sensory garden, that's such a beautiful way to frame it, is the difference between gardens for food, for vegetables, and gardens for just sensory and enjoying that. And as the phrase goes, kind of stop and smell the roses. So if you've heard that phrase. So you started to talk a little bit about it, but for Ms. Hunter and for all the kids, what future plans do you have for the Wood Creek Garden?
Well, part of what we do in fifth grade for IB is we do something called an exhibition where the kids research and take action on a project. So we're going to be breaking up amongst all the fifth grade these three concepts. So we have the ideas of what we want to do, but we need to research what is a sensory garden, what goes in a sensory garden. And so kids will be broken up into groups. An irrigation system, like Landon spoke about, there's so many ways to water a garden, but the kids will be researching what are the best ways to water a garden. There's different things that urban gardens use, different soaker hoses and things, but I don't want to tell them too much because that's what we want them to do. And as far as indigenous planting, the Native Americans were our first farmers. So they taught us about planting, and we want to learn all that. So a lot of inquiry-based learning, a lot of meaningful questions that the kids will be asking and working on. And then the goal also is to open it up to the community, the school community and our neighborhood, because Wood Creek is in a neighborhood. And we need to research, how does a community garden work? And we also want to interview parents and see what types of fruits, vegetables, crops they want grown, because we have such a high population of, we have a huge diversity here at Wood Creek, and people from so many different cultures. And as a Middle Eastern woman, I know that I would want eggplant grown in the garden. And so we're going to interview our families and survey them and see what they would like grown in there.
That sounds like a wonderful plan. To our students, if other schools wanted to replicate this, and I guess to Ms. Hunter as well, what is your best advice on how to get started? How to get started at the classroom level or at the school level? Because I'm sure people are going to see this and they're going to want to replicate this idea. So what ideas do any of you have on what other schools could do to get started?
You could probably just start like planting little plants, and just like when I was in kindergarten, we just started planting little plants, and then eventually it got bigger, and like we started gardening more. And so it's kind of like learning, like you start to plant a little seed, and then eventually you'll keep growing, and then it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you could probably do that with a garden and just start off little, and eventually, if you start to like it, then it'll get bigger.
That's a great idea. Other ideas?
Do your research.
What do you mean, Landon?
Research what plants go well together and what plants don't grow well together, and make sure you weed them every day and when to weed them.
So a lot of care and maintenance of that, and looking at where we live here in Michigan and the climate we have, and what plants or vegetables, flowers grow here. That's great advice. How about you, Noel? Any advice for how to get started?
Oh, we already did Noel. Armani.
Armani.
Well, I actually agree with Noel because I feel like you could just do something little at first with your class, and then when you guys went though, I feel like if like all the classrooms, all the 5th grade and 4th grade just started doing plants like in their own little side door plays, and then when everyone learns the basics and stuff like that, we go on to like a real garden like we have in where we on our blacktop. And that's kind of how Wood Creek started their garden, because right now we have a really nice garden, but it's like just a regular garden. But eventually we're gonna do like some renovations to it and get more stuff and make it even bigger.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for these great ideas and for sharing with us the Wood Creek Garden. Ms. Hunter, any final thoughts that you have?
Sure. I just wanted to say that for anyone who's any school that's looking, I'm more than happy to help. The resources that I use, the grants that I wrote, I'm more than happy to share all that. I would just say, know your why. Why do you want the garden? Tie it into curriculum. There's so many areas of curriculum that the garden ties into, and then just know how to receive funds. Go to your PTA, go to Bosch. Bosch has a grant every year for teachers, and I'm more than happy to help with that. More than happy.
Well, thank you so much. And it's very apparent that that the love and care that all of you are putting into the garden is not only growing the plants and the flowers, but growing your school community. So thank you all so very much for being our first spotlight of the 21-22 school year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.